CIA evacuates intelligence officer from Serbia as Havana Syndrome. Attacks on American spies and diplomats continue to grow.
Here's a summary of the article.
The CIA evacuated an intelligence officer from Serbia who was suffering from symptoms associated with Havana Syndrome, as more cases of this mysterious neurological attack continue to affect American spies and diplomats. About a week ago, a CIA agent fell ill with suspected Havana Syndrome while on a work trip to India with CIA Director William Burns, and another agent experienced the same symptoms about a month ago in Vietnam. There have been 200 reported cases of the yet unexplained illness, which has been colloquially named for its first reported case in 2016 at the U.S. Embassy in Havana, Cuba. Roughly half of the cases involved CIA officers or their relatives. Nearly 60 have been linked to Department of Defense workers or relatives, and about 50 involved State Department personnel. On September 15, Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin issued a memo to DoD employees to report any symptoms of the so-called Havana Syndrome in an effort to get to the bottom of the mysterious illness. Austin advised personnel who believe they have come down with Havana Syndrome to immediately remove yourself, co-workers, and/or family member from the area, and report the incident, according to the memo, first reported on by the New York Times. There's a classic intelligence problem, and we are approaching it with the same techniques, David S. Cohen, Deputy CIA Director, said at the annual Intelligence and National Security Summit in September, the New York Times reported. In May, reports emerged that some U.S. officials suspect Russia's infamous Foreign Intelligence Agency, the GRU, could be the culprit.
This post received a score of 6,000, with an upvote ratio of 94%. Here are the top comments in response to this article.
Maybe tinfoil hats would be useful after all.
Tinfoil is gonna be the new toilet paper soon.
Tinfoil might actually make it worse. This is one of my favorite conspiracies. That is that tinfoil hats actually make it easier for satellites to read your thoughts, and people were tricked into wearing them believing they would block it instead. I don't believe it, but it's a fun idea.
Well, I mean, it's conductive, so it could pick up certain radio signals.
I'm a firm believer of the explanation from Control, the video game. For those unaware, great game by the way.
Control is such an amazing game. Felt like a AAA SCP game the entire time I played it, and then I look it up after the fact and see that SCP was actually a big inspiration for it. Really glad it's getting a sequel.
Yeah, that's why I loved it. Thinks about time for another replay. The Alan Wake DLC was minted too.
I need to replay it too now that I finally have an RTX card and can use ray tracing and DLSS. Played it with a 166 OS the first time, which was fine, but definitely had to turn some settings down.
IDK if you are into psychedelics, but I am doing a playthrough in Control RN with them, and oh my god, does it look good on my maxed RTX card. 10 out of 10 would recommend if you don't easily get scared whilst tripping.
Imagine you could be sniped by an energy weapon with a delayed effect.
I wonder how close these devices need to make an effect.
Weaponized sperm whale.
Are you a victim?
I don't get how they didn't found the cause already, and/or who's behind it. Aren't radiation and sound waves detectable with instruments? I wonder if there's some other physical phenomenon involved.
If it's intermittent and also coherent, that is, directed in a tight beam, it would only be detectable for a short period of time in a small area. This article is interesting. It says that diplomats in Guangzhou measured unusual EM radiation that was stronger than the off-the-shelf equipment could quantify. I wish there were more details, frequencies, etc. But apparently the government is playing it close to the vest.
Imagine if it was no Syndrome and just really shitty headsets.
Like someone else said already, it's Morgellons for spooks.
Okay, so not Cuba's fault.
Never was. It's never made an ounce of sense for them to have been ultimately responsible. They made perfect scapegoats in a situation like this though. And if my dumb ass knows that, the international intelligence community, looking at you Vlad, does as well.
Agreed. It would have been bonus stupid to sonar nuke the people who just agreed to their first embassy in your country in 50 years. The Cubans even opened a years-long investigation into the syndrome.
This video was automatically created by Reddit to speech. The article and comments in this video were selected from Reddit according to their upvotes, and any paraphrasing was performed by smmry.com, without any human intervention.